All right, welcome to this week's episode of The Hours. I'm Tyler Costin. This is my partner, Mark Cassio. We are Savvy Coaching, also known as Savvy Basketball if you're reading my shirt. This is one of the newer versions. Mark has one of the older versions, both good. Some people like last year's uniforms better than this year's uniforms. You can get your own shirt as well. If you're in our community, we've got the link. And you can also get it at savvycoach.com. Love for you to be rocking it and repping it. I think I told you this, Mark. Quick celebration before we get started. I was just in Las Vegas at the Nike Tournament of Champions, coaching the viewing event for some of our club teams. And multiple coaches who I'd never met before came up to me and said, "Hey, I listened to the Hours podcast." And that was really, I mean, we haven't been doing this that long publicly. And it was very cool that there are coaches out there in the basketball world that have never seen us in person, but are listening to the podcast and really appreciate it. So, uh, snaps to you, Mark,
Snaps
because
to
you know
you,
what?
man.
Snaps to you because before you came on to the podcast, it was just like an internal thing. And I think it was your idea when you joined Savvy almost 2 years ago now to say, "Hey, let's make this thing public."
Yeah, I enjoy doing these, but also I've seen the outreach too. I got 2 texts from coaches and just old acquaintances in coaching that said, "Hey, I listened to this episode of the Hours." I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." Like I had no idea that you would listen or even find it because whenever you were doing it and we started doing it was live and it was for our members only. We opened it up to everybody and response has been great. So if you're a regular listener or a first time listener, we're glad you're here and we love talking hoops with each other and with you.
I think this is good context. Mark and I actually, when we joined forces under the Savvy banner, we decided we need to spend more time together talking basketball and aligning our coaching philosophies, which we knew were aligned in principle, but weren't necessarily aligned in language. And we both have developed systems independently that are based on conceptual offense, player empowerment, playing fun, fast, and free basketball, teaching with a games approach and constraint led teaching, all aligned in that, but layered differently, communicated differently. And we're like, man, this is going to take hours and hours for us to align our systems. And we said, well, let's just have these conversations in public, these hours and hours of basketball conversations, hence the hours. These are the hours of basketball conversations that we're just trying to have, not just with each other, not just with our guests that we have on, but a somewhat one sided soliloquy to each and every one of you listening. And that is how we got here. And today we're going to be talking about one of the core systems. I don't know if we call it a system. Mark will tell us here in a moment. The core systems in Savvy, affectionately known as the Rose series. The Rose series, I'll just say this, and then Mark, you can tell us where Rose series came from and why it should matter to coaches. But first, let me say this. If you don't know where to start on offense, you should start with the Rose series. I believe that the Rose series has a primal place in every team's offensive system. I truly believe that. If you're not currently utilizing the Rose series, you should start. If you're currently using the Rose series, there's ways to do it better. And I hope that this podcast helps you do both of those things, start or improve Rose series. Mark, tell us about where Rose series came from and why it matters.
Yeah, first we talked about how you talked about how on the hours we just come here, we talk ball, we align on things. One of the coolest things was I shared Rose series with you very early, and like the next day you're like, "Hey, I put in fingers,"
Yeah.
and we love it. So snaps to you for implementing things that are new. And one thing I've always loved about working with you is, yes, I think like our end destination was the same. We got there different ways, and that's been so cool. I was actually having a conversation with a good coaching friend of mine, and he said, "What's been the best part of working with Tyler?" And I didn't have anything to say. No, I'm just kidding. I said,
Because they're all the best,
"That's
obviously.
right. There's too many." And I said, I learn all the time, and a lot of times it's reinforcing things or just finding a new way to verbalize something or teach something. So snaps to you. All right, Rose series. It is I would say the core way, the number one way that we create advantages in offense. Do you have to run what I run, drive in space, or what we run, kind of a hybrid of race and space, drive in space, in order to run Rose series? No. There are these are actions that you can incorporate in your offense, and I'm going to go way back to its origins here. I was brought up in a man to man defense and motion system. So naturally, we all know coaches coach the way they were coached. Whenever I got my first head coaching job, we ran motion. It was what I knew. I was really comfortable teaching it, but I also knew my experience as an assistant coach where players were begging us for more freedom. No one goes to the head coach, right? They always go to the assistant. Assistant is good cop. So they would come to me and just like, gosh, like we need to play faster. We need to shoot more threes. And I'm, didn't really disagree, but I always was loyal to my head coach, and we were good, and we got really good shots, and we won a lot of games. So there was no really reason to make this wholesale change yet. But as a head coach, I knew there was a better way. So I started running dribble drive motion. This is when Vance Wahlberg, was booming, and Calipari at Memphis popularized this with Derrick Rose, hence the name Rose Series. So I was running motion. I started running dribble drive. I loved motion in the sense that it had really good ball movement, had really good player movement. It was conceptual because you're giving players choices, you're guiding behavior, you're not dictating behavior. But I wanted to have more space, more, shoot the three more room for drive and kick, all that stuff. And that's what dribble drive gave us. But it didn't give us the ball movement. It didn't give us the player movement. It was ISO ball. So I started looking for solutions here of how can we blend what I love of motion and what I love of dribble drive into an offense. That's what drive and space really became. And the origins of Rose Series was my relationship with Doug Novak. I really can't talk about any about this without giving him a shout out. He was a Division I associate head coach down in Tulane, which is in New Orleans, 45, 50 minutes down the road from me. And we just built a connection. I would go down there, watch practice. After practice, he'd spend hours with me on the whiteboard. And a lot of these actions originated from Coach Novak, where all of the Rose Series actions, whether it's fingers, fan, follow, or their counterparts that are pressure releases, they're all designed to create space to allow you to attack space off the bounce. I found, fingers is probably like the foundational action in there. And I found early my teams were only running fingers. So um, I wanted to incorporate new actions. So we came up with new actions and new concepts to incorporate in there. But I wanted to have like a name of the series so my players knew what we were in, because that is such a key element of offense, is like, one, recognizing we're neutral. Two, when we're neutral, we need to get to an action. How do we know what action to get into? So I just wanted to put all these actions underneath one umbrella, and we called it Rose Series, named after Derrick Rose, and it's been just the foundational piece of our offense. So I would agree. I think any coach could adopt this and create more space, create more advantages, and it allows for easier decisions because you're getting your best ball handlers in space, so they have optimal room, optimal space, optimal time to make those decisions.
Beautiful. Okay. This is really tough. You don't know it if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old. You got to speak in short sound bites. You have 30 seconds to teach Rose Series to everyone listening. You're starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, go.
Rose Series is a series of actions that we run through the what we call the action spots, or it's typically the guard spots. Some people call them the slots. But just picture a two guard alignment. When the ball goes from across the midline, guard to guard, players have an option to run one of three cuts. We got fingers, fan, or follow. Which one they pick, I don't care. But the trigger for that is ball in the action spot. Ball goes across, and we run one of those actions.
Boom! Did it with a second to spare. That's amazing. Okay. If you want the complete Rose Series course that not only teaches you way more in more than 30 seconds, as well as how to install it, you can head to savvycoach.com / Rose Series. We'll put the link in the description down below. And starting today is the day that it's dropping. We are actually going to be doing a 1 week discount on the Rose Series from $47 to $27. For just $27, you can basically get the core of your entire offense. And I would encourage you to do that. For all of our club teams, Rose Series is our primary series of actions that every player, from our fourth graders through our high school national team that every player knows how to run. Okay, I've got three threes for you. Mark, three threes, three sets of three questions. And many of you that are listening to this are familiar with Rose series. If you're not, go buy it, then re-listen to this. This will help everyone that is familiar with Rose series get better. Mark, what are the three most common mistakes that coaches, players, programs make when using running the Rose series?
First one is understanding that Rose series is a series. It's not an action and it's not an offense. So many coaches reach out and they say, "Hey, I'm running the Rose offense." I'm like, you'll have to share that with me one day because I don't know. I don't know what that is. Or they will say, "Coach, we run the Rose cut." And I don't know what that is either because again, Rose series is a series of actions. So number one is just a misunderstanding of actually what Rose series is and how it can complement your offense.
What offense do you run?
We call it drive in space.
Okay.
Um, we've adopted a lot of race and space principles because race and space, drive and space are so closely aligned. But I would say drive and
So
space. Funny you say
Rose series fits in to your offense, which is driving space.
correct.
Offense you would run.
Drive in space is whatever you want it to be. Now we have a course that'll take you through 10 layers of, hey, if you want to run it like I've run it in the past with some of its variations, it's all right there. But why I call it drive in space is that's the number one way we're trying to create advantages. There's three ways to create advantage or to get, let's just say to get the ball to the rim. If we're going to get the ball to the rim to score, we can throw it in the post, we can cut and screen, or we can drive and kick. That's how we're going to get our nines or sevens. I think in drive and space, the number one way we do it is drive and kick. But another misconception is that all we do. Like a lot of coaches. So okay, so going back to number one of the mistakes is they only use drive and kick to create their advantages. So it's essentially dribble drive motion with maybe like some Rose series flavor in there. But I think as you go up in level, as you play the hardest teams on your schedule, you usually need something else to create your advantages. So I would say only putting or trying to create advantages through drive and kick would be another mistake that teams would make. And then last one would be running only one action from Rose series. So not varying how you know what you run when the ball crosses the midline. So I pass to Tyler across, and we just run the same action. Typically, that's fingers, right? The number one question I get is, "Hey, my team only runs fingers. How can I get my team to run something else?" So I would say that with a combination of always using Rose series. So every time we pass across, we drive it because that becomes very predictable and the ball is driven back to where it came from. So I would say kind of a combination of those two things for number three.
Hey everybody, this is Tyler, and I'd like to personally invite you to join our free Savvy Coaching community. Post any question you have here in our chat and get your questions answered, as well as get access to all of our free resources in our Savvy community. We've got it all here for you. So click the link below and we'll see you inside. Okay, those are really good. I am going to get to my list of what I have observed are the most common mistakes or misses in Rose series. But before I do, I want to back up and talk about what offense you run. So every coach listening right now, I really would, if you're on this journey becoming a more savvy coach, a coach with deeper knowledge of your craft, then I would really challenge you on your answer to this question. What offense do you run? I ask that question often of coaches. Mark and I help coaches with their offense. When people ask me, what do I do for a living? I help coaches figure out what offense they run, I guess could be part of that answer. What offense do you run? Five out, not an offense. Four out, not an offense. Pass and cut, not an offense. You know,
Ball screen.
Princeton continuity
No,
ball screen, not an offense. And so if you're a savvy coach, you actually reject most labels that most coaches would put on their offense. We at Savvy believe the definition of offense is how you prioritize the principles that you teach. That's your offense. So We do this through layers in our offense. Layer one is the top priority. We want to make sure that uh, our objective is this first, right? And then you layer on the second objective. That's your offense, right? Within those layering of objectives, you can get there so many different ways, as Mark just suggested, of ways to put pressure on the rim, ways to create advantages. So most coaches, and again, I know I'm speaking very philosophically. Let me just bring this home and hopefully shift your gaze, your mindset, your coaching priorities a little bit here. You you are not yet a savvy coach if you only think of your offense as what you do to create advantages from neutral. Okay, that's what most coaches think of their offense. Oh, we run, continuity ball screen, right? Okay, well then that's how you create an advantage when neutral, but that doesn't speak to how you're teaching your team to prioritize playing when they are in advantage. That's offense. Offense first before you talk about your actions, which is what we suggest you row series is a series of actions to create advantage when you're neutral. But if you have not yet taught your team the priority of principles on how to play with advantage, there is no reason to teach them how to create that advantage yet. Row series is something that you need to slot into your offense, and in our opinion, after you have developed your players to play in advantage. There are many ways to create advantage, obviously transition being our favorite, but I just want to kind of zoom out to what we're talking about here. Do you want to speak to that before I share my three most common misses on row
Now it's
series?
yours.
Okay. We have one overlap, and mine was one and done. Like, so we're gonna run one action and then we're done, and we don't know what to do next. We devolve into ISO ball, and I know that's a miss and a common mistake because it's what my teams do most often, and it's an ongoing battle. It was our battle this weekend. We just played 8 games per team in this viewing event, and what I was so proud of our team was how they were able to go from not running multiple actions when we lost advantage to running multiple actions, and like the evolution of that group was awesome. Two most common miss: setting it up. Okay, now let's run an action out of rows series. After transition, we are not spaced, right? And we have to respace, we have to pause and verbally or with eye contact set it up. We allow the defense a chance to breathe, prepare, as opposed to flowing into and out of row series action as we flow into and out of advantage and neutral. So setting it up is a very common mistake. Interrupt me at any point if you want to speak to any of these. Spacing, I think, gosh, I'd probably put this one as number one. The spacing of where the players are in what we call the action spots, commonly known as slots. In row series, we believe that the spacing should be way higher than commonly occurs. Most teams make the mistake of running row series from the 3 point line. We want them above the 4 point line. So that spacing from the action spots. Next common mistake. I got more than three. Sorry. Next common mistake is spacing off the ball. So too often players off the ball are creeping up out of the corners or from the baseline to the wings, taking away triple wide gaps and making them single gaps. So spacing off the ball is a common mistake. All right, I'll stop there. Any of those that you want to speak to, push back on?
I'll speak to all of them real quickly because they all could have been on my list. These are all really, really good. And you can tell the cool thing about what you're doing with the academy is like you get to experience and experiment with everything that we do with Savvy. Like you're hands on, you're in the trenches. One and done. I've found early adopters. So if you're in your first year of running Rose Series or you're thinking about running it and you decide to run it next year, just one thing to look at is your team will likely be able to get their first action. But can you get back into Rose series? And are you taking fives or so shots after your first one? So that is something that you're going to have to coach against. So just be prepared for it. In fact, every Thursday we release a teach tape Thursday over the summer where I'm just doing a series where we just dive like way into a specific concept. And today, we released a pattern recognition video on how to get back in the Rose series after you've already run one action. Okay.
And just so coaches know, if you All of that is within our coaching membership. And that's why, I mean, there's different ways to get involved with Savvy. I just want to share this real quick, Mark, because it's honestly why we do this. This is how we help coaches. We're just giving you a taste during the hours. You can buy the course or you can join our membership. The difference is the course is just the course. We recorded it, we ship it to you, and it gives you what you need. The membership is a living, breathing thing where we're responding to the needs of our members. Like what Mark just said, you don't get the weekly additional support based on the needs of you, our members, just by buying the course. So we'd love for you to go deeper with us. That's why we do this. We want to help coaches and go deeper with you. And the next steps for Rose Series would be buy the course, take advantage of the sale, or then if you want to go even deeper, join our membership, and we can tailor our content to you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, really good. Second thing you mentioned was set it up. There should not be a division between your full court offense and your half court offense. In fact, if we don't arrive with a numbers advantage in transition, we're probably arriving against an unorganized defense. Let's not set it up and allow them to set up and give them time to get neutral. So we want to flow into Rose series as quickly as possible. I'm actually headed to the airport after we record this, and we're going to install Rose Series with a team, with a high school team, and that's on the practice plan for day one of our program clinic. Is can we flow in the Rose Series? That's layer 2 of our drive in space course. We call that riding the wave. Can we use that momentum? Can we use that advantage of having, maybe we are 5-on-5, but we're organized and they're not? That puts us at a small advantage. Can we turn that small advantage into a big advantage? Second or third one, you said, they play too close to the 3-point line. We wanna play at the 4-point plan. Yeah, high and wide. That is going to allow you to move the ball easier. So a principle that we teach in Drive in Space is nothing stops the ball from moving. The number one way that you can generate ball speed and get the ball moving, when you move the ball, you move the defense, is to play higher and wider. That's gonna give you the opportunity to go across more, which is the trigger for Rose. It's going to give you more down up overs, and it just makes defense guard more functional space. Right, you're not limiting them to, what is it, 19 feet 9 inches that they have to cover. We want to play like 35 feet from the rim. In fact, I had a lot of coaches, the first time they would play us, like, gosh, we've never had to guard that much space before. It's something we did not account for when building our scouting report or just working on our prep for you. And then last, this one be quick. So you said spacing off the ball. Completely agree with players coming out of the corner. In fact, I think where I probably differ from most coaches is I want my players to stay in the corner as long as possible, and preferably they never lift because, again, this was in our pattern recognition video today. But if I drive it, help is likely coming from the weak side of the floor. If you help from the strong side of the floor, we're probably going to get, well, I'm going to say we're probably going to beat you, but only if we make a certain percentage of these shots. But we're going to get just catch and shoot sevens from the ball side corner. And it's such an easy decision. We call it an early easy because it's an early pitch and it's the easiest decision. So just take the early easy, pitch it to the ball side corner. If your goal is to shoot, catch and shoot threes, then don't move. Make it a stationary catch and shoot three, stay in the corner. If we don't get that, if they don't help ball side, which hopefully if you play defense, you're not doing that. If they don't help ball side, help is coming from the weak side or the opposite side of the floor. So that's where we want to punish it. We want to get defense in the coverage, meaning we're engaging two. They're having to help from the wall. If you get in the coverage, we want to punish you for being a good defensive team and getting in the coverage. We usually do that by kicking to the weak side of the floor and not the strong side. So if I'm not coming to the strong side, I would rather you stay in the corner so we can keep our base spacing template.
Really good. Hopefully, all of you listening are thinking about how you can apply these things, hopefully, to Rose Series, or honestly, to just anything else that you're doing offensively. Speaking of offensively, let's rewind quickly before my next question. Zoom back out. Rose series is not offense. I keep using it. Continuity ball screen is not your offense. What Mark and I were just talking about with spacing to the 4-point line is related to a principle of the race and space offense. Layer 2 is space and hunt. And I share this because I think that this is a teaching opportunity for savvy coaches to change the perspective of players when they are on offense. Players have a guiding principle. They have an objective. They have a desire when they are on offense that's innate and natural to nearly every player you coach. If you try to get them to run offense, that is often in conflict with what they want to do. Our goal is not to run offense. Our goal is to change what they want to do while on offense. Mark, what does every player, especially starting at the youth level, what does every player want to do when they're on offense? They want to shoot. Okay. So if that's their number one desire, that's going to determine their court position. That's going to determine where they choose to stand. And if a player wants to shoot, most players shoot better the closer they are to the hoop. And so they're going to continually get what we call creepy. They're going to play creepy. They're going to be creeping in towards the basket where they have the opportunity to do what they really want to do. So layer number two in race and space is space and hunt, where very, very early we say, no, we want to change what your desire is from shooting to spacing. And we believe that by spacing, you're going to actually get the opportunity to then go and hunt your shot. But you space first and hunt second. And by just like changing what a player is trying to do, stand on the 3 point line to be able to shoot, or get up to the 4 point line to be able to pass, which Mark said, we want the ball to flow like water. We want to make sure that passes are easy and open. And so we prefer spacing and ball movement over shooting. So that's just kind of a connection between what we talked about earlier about what offense actually is as a priority of principles and not the actions you run from neutral. Anything to add on that before I ask you your next question, Mark?
This is why I love the hours, because we get to have these conversations. I've never heard space and hunt articulated that way, as we space first, then we hunt. That's awesome. And that's what one thing I love about how you've laid out our courses in our classroom is like the names of the layers are very well thought out and intentional. They communicate exactly what we want you to do, right? Like layer one of race and space, race the arcs. That is our first principle. That's what we want you to do. We race first, we race always. So awesome. I'm glad. This is why it's so fun. I'm glad you said it that way, because now it connected a lot of dots for me.
Awesome. I'm going to throw a little nugget in here. I know we're bouncing around because I do think this is like an independent nugget that could help coaches. Coaches, if you don't journal, begin journaling. Mark just, suggested how intentional these names were. Well, do you know how we, or in this case, I, arrived at that name, Mark? Any care to guess?
No guesses.
Over the course of 8 to 12 years, I recreated, wrote down the core principles of offense at least weekly for nearly a decade. That's how you arrive there. Now, coaches, if you're not journaling regularly about what do we want first, what do we want second, what do we want third, what's the language of our program? I don't like that. Oh, here's something new, right? The more you journal, the more organizes your thoughts and the more that it flows out of your mouth like water. And it's just very, very comfortable. That's the value of journaling. You will, if you only think about and speak your principles when teaching it to your players, you're way behind. You're way behind. And so I would just encourage you, like, journal, write about what you what you want the objectives of your offense, defense, program. I'll use the word culture right now to be. It's so valuable. We're going through a mindset reset challenge with our online pickleball school, and I got a message from one of our adult pickleball players. He's an older guy, 50-plus-year-old guy. And he's like, I've never journaled in my life. I'm on my 10th day in a row of journaling about my pickleball game. He's like, I play so much pickleball. I've never written about it. And I thought it was dumb. He's like, after 10 days of journaling, I can't believe I haven't done this sooner. Like my thinking and decision making is more clear than it's ever been. Because it's just a hard thing to do, but that's the value of it. So, I mean, coaches, gosh, I know I'm talking long about this. If you aren't incorporating journaling into what you're teaching your players to do, I think that's a big miss. Like just a very simple, Dick DeVenzio, one of my mentors who's passed away now, he in one of his books, he talks about when he did consulting for a college team. And one of the requirements when he consulted for this college team is every player on the college team had to have their basketball journal, and they actually had to bring it to the bench in games. and every player had a counterpart. I don't know if you ever heard this, Mark. Every player had a counterpart, and their playing time was predetermined based on their practice performance leading up to the game. And so you and I had to split 40 minutes, let's say, college game. You and I had to split 40 minutes based on our performance playing the same role. And we had a journal. When you were in, I was watching you and journaling about what you did well, what you did poorly, that prompts. And then when I subbed in for you, you had to sit down and start journaling about me. And that was a requirement of the whole season. I mean, imagine if one actually implemented that or something like that. How much more a player's eye, decision making, pattern recognition would change. Wouldn't it be unbelievable? Dick DeVizio, genius, ahead of his time.
You get reps on and off the floor. Mental
You get
reps
right
so
off the floor.
important. Yeah.
I mean, most people just check out when they're off the floor because you haven't directed their attention to what they should be observing, measuring, whatever.
Yeah, and you know what they're thinking about when they check out? Me, 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 not us,
Yes,
us,
that's
us,
good.
us, us.
Yeah.
All right, I wanna. This I know we got off subject here. Tyler's gonna get us back on subject of Rose series here very shortly, but I want to share this. Coaches, you don't have time to journal. That's what you're telling yourself, right? That's the excuse. Here's what I would recommend after every practice, every game, on your way home, no podcast, no music, nothing. It's just you and your thoughts. That will be your journal. Your mind will start racing. And what I would do, I would take away the most powerful moment or the most powerful thought and just do one line of journal. So you might have 10 things run through your mind. What was the most important one? Just write that one thing down, and if you do this for weeks, months, you will be shocked at how valuable that one line is going to be when you go back and review it.
And, you may be listening to this while driving, working out, whatever, and you might not be able to, but if you are able to, and if you're just going audio right now, I'm showing you my writing. Like I've been taking notes this entire time. If you are serious about this coaching craft thing, or at least as serious as Mark and myself, you'd be journaling or writing or taking notes through this and identifying your priorities and principles. Um, I believe that is going to be a I do have more questions for you, Mark, but I think that's a great place for this week's hours to leave off. But this is such a robust subject in Row series. We're going to do a part two of this. And so you learned today three things. One, four things. One, you need to incorporate row series into what you do. Two, row series is not offense, and hopefully you learn a little bit more about deciding what your offense actually is. Three, you learn the most common misses and mistakes that we see when installing row series, so hopefully that you can avoid them. And four, a cheat code, I believe, to skyrocket your development, which is incorporate the habit of journaling into your life and into your journey. If you want to check out Rose Series, it goes on sale today for just 7 days. Head to savvycoach.com. You'll see something on the homepage for Rose Series. You can go /Rose Series. Mark, any final thoughts before we sign off on this one?
Yeah. How I got started in this space was people reaching out about what we did offensively and they wanted to incorporate it. And I used to give it all away for free. I used to say, hey, this is what it is. Go do it. And I found instantly that I was doing a disservice to coaches because they would come back to me with film or questions. And there was just a lot of misconceptions. There was a lot of things lost in translation where I said, you know what? This actually is not serving coaches. Why don't we hop on Zoom and go a little bit deeper? Sling me $50 and we'll do that. And then it turned into, we'll come in and teach it to my coaching staff. Then it turned into come in and just implement it with my team. So I would actually recommend, if you're not going to buy the mini course, if you're not going to join our membership, if you're not going to find a way to actually learn the intricacies of it, don't run it. Wait until you're ready, because you're going to have questions like anything. We want you to be comfortable doing this. And if you can't teach it, if you can't communicate it, then you're going to be doing you and your team a disservice. So $27, that's a very low barrier to entry. If you spend that $27, that will give you the base that you need to start running Rose Series tomorrow.
Invest and you will reap the rewards. Until next time, thanks for joining us. This is The Hours. I'm Tyler. That's Mark. Stay savvy.
Later.